Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The Sejm has dismissed 8 members of the State Commission investigating Russian influence on Poland's security. The Commission had previously recommended that Donald Tusk and former members of his government from a decade ago should not be entrusted with public positions related to state security. Paweł Błok of TV Republica has more. Donald Tusk's administration governed Poland from 2007 to 2015. During this time, he stopped negotiations on the American missile defense system, not opposed the construction of the Russian-German Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 gas pipelines, and finally liquidated over 600 units of the Polish army. That is why Law and Justice wanted to analyse the documentary record to check whether members of both Donald Tusk's governments had succumbed to Russian influence. The commission was established in September this year, and yesterday its members were dismissed by the Sejm. Before this happened, the Commission presented a short report on its work so far. Of course, from our point of view as authors, the report is not satisfactory because we were under time pressure and wanted to prepare it for today. The Commission recommended that Donald Tusk, Jacek Cichocki, Bogdan Klich, Tomasz Siemionak and Bartłomiej Sienkiewicz should not be entrusted with public positions responsible for state security. We had the impression that politicians responsible for state security were not interested in state security. This scope of their responsibility was not a priority for them. When you study the declassified fragments of their testimony, you will see this clearly. In the published report, we can read, among other things, Donald Tusk's hearing on cooperation between the Polish Military Counterintelligence Service, SKW, and the Russian Federal Security Service, the FSB. The report also shows a case in which the SKW deliberately falsified documents. However, this fragment itself is proof that the SKW provided false data in the state flight documents in order to transport the official resident of the FSB in Poland, Russian Vladimir Józwik, by a military plane to the military unit in Braniewo under a fictitious but Polish-sounding name, Włodzimierz Józwik. Yesterday, one of the main authors of the reset, General Piotr Pytel, argued that there was no cooperation with the Russian security services. There was no cooperation between the SKW and the FSB. We did not provide the Russians with any information. Law and justice lovers, will you show at least one note, letter, anything that would indicate the cooperation of SKW with the Russians? You won't show it. You are pathological, mean frauds. However, documents prove otherwise, which clearly show that this cooperation flourished under Donald Tusk. March 31st, 2011, I would like to emphasise my readiness to enter into talks regarding the initiation of closer cooperation between the Military Counterintelligence Service and the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation. General Piotr Pytel himself participated in an alcohol-fueled party in Kadyni, during which Polish officers fraternised with Russians. The alcohol he drank during dinner with the Russians must have damaged his memory, because consent to such operation was given by Donald Tusk, but most of this cooperation was beyond such consent. Yesterday, the new parliamentary majority led by Donald Tusk dismissed members of the commission investigating Russian influence. Vladimir Putin and Donald Tusk. These are matters that need to be verified. This is what you are afraid of. This is what you are running away from. You want Poles to see the curtain drawn, not the actual events. Now politicians from the parliamentary majority are talking about the possibility of electing new committee members. Interestingly, even before the recent elections, they argued that this commission was illegal and unconstitutional. The dismissed commission members said that even with a different composition, the state body should continue its mission. Poland needs such a commission because of Russian influence, especially during Russia's preparations for territorial conquest. We really need to understand what is happening in Poland in terms of Russian political influence. The State Commission for Investigating Russian Influence on the Internal Security of the Republic of Poland in 2007 to 2022 operates on the basis of legal provisions adopted by the Sejm on the 14th of April 2023. Similar bodies were established in Western Europe. Polish border guards were sent to Finland as part of an advisory mission to counter the hybrid attack on the Finnish border. According to Anna Michalska, the border guard spokesperson, 2 officers who dealt with hybrid attacks from Belarus will advise Finland on technical and legal issues concerning border protection. The Kremlin warned that such a move could stoke tensions and that Russia would see it as a threat. The head of Polish National Security Bureau, Jacek Siwiera, said in a post on social media X late on Tuesday that Poland would send military advisors to its NATO ally Finland in response to an official request for allied support in the face of a hybrid attack on the Finnish border. In 2021, the Polish government deployed hundreds of police officers and troops to the Belarusian border, owing to repeated attempts by thousands of migrants to cross into Poland and then to move further to the west. Poland has maintained that Belarus and Russia orchestrated the crisis in an attempt to destabilize the European Union. The events at the Finnish-Russian border are similar to those which took place earlier at the Polish-Belarusian border and are part of one huge operation targeting the West, a senior member of the Law and Justice Party said. In an interview for the Polish Press Association, Marcin Przydacz, a Law and Justice MP and a former Deputy Foreign Minister, added that everyone who is sane can see this as another element of Russia's hybrid war against the West. He said, "This shows that what happened on the Polish border and what is happening on the Finnish-Russian border is one huge operation. Poland was able to maintain stability on its eastern border," he continued, "but attempts at destabilization from the Belarusian side are still being made." On Tuesday, the Finnish government decided to close all of its border crossings with Russia in an attempt to halt a surge in asylum seekers Helsinki says has been orchestrated by Moscow. This autumn, almost 1,000 illegal immigrants from third countries crossed Finland's eastern frontier. Finnish President Sauli Niinisto held talks with his Polish counterpart Andrzej Duda in Warsaw last week, but they did not discuss military cooperation on the Finnish border with Russia, Niinisto's office said in a statement to Reuters. The Kremlin, commenting on media reports, said that Poland's move could stoke tensions and that Russia would see it as a threat. In a call with reporters, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, "This is an absolutely redundant measure to ensure border security because there is no threat there. There is no tension in reality," he said. Well, there is no conflict as such. Firstly, nothing and no one is threatening Finland. And in this case, this is, of course, an absolutely redundant measure to ensure border security because there is no threat there. In reality, there is no tension. Tension may actually arise during the concentration of additional units on our border because the Finns must be clearly aware that this will pose a threat to us, an increase in the concentration of military units on our borders. Therefore, this is a completely unprovoked, unjustified concentration of armed units on the Russian border. A draft bill on support for energy consumers has been submitted to the Sejm. The authors of the bill, part of the new parliamentary majority, included in the text proposals that wind farms may be built at a distance of 300 metres from houses and that investors may expropriate land from owners if it is needed for the construction of new wind farms. Media speculates that the act was written by lobbyists of large companies. The key component of the Act is the liberalisation of provisions of the so-called Wind Farm Act adopted in 2016, which required the distance from residential houses to be equal to 10 times the height of the windmill. The new law is intended to reduce this distance to 500 or 300 metres. Public opinion was also outraged by the issue of expropriation for the purposes of investment. This sparked comments as the regulations were commissioned by Siemens, which recently got into trouble related to the wind turbines it erected and wants to recoup these losses in Poland. Commentators believe that the shape of the act is intended to be a trap for the president, who will not be able to veto the provisions because at the same time it will eliminate subsidies to electricity prices for the poorest consumers. The European Union should take Ukraine's military needs into account as it determines the future strategy of Europe's defence industry, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said. Next year, the European Commission aims to propose its European Defence Industry Programme. In a speech at the annual conference of the European Defence Agency, von der Leyen said Ukraine should be integrated into European Union defence programmes to help cater for its needs in its war against the Russian invasion.
Russia is now reinforcing its positions, trying to retake the initiative. And this means that the situation on the battlefield remains very challenging. But this is not an argument against support. On the contrary, it is an argument for more support. We need to make up for decades of underinvestment and fragmentation. And to overcome this, we need to spend more, spend better, and spend together.
The Commission aims to propose its European Defence Industry Programme early next year, von der Leyen said, which would also look at ways to fund the industry. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.